Well, good morning, it's Pep, and I'm just going to show you a bit about how I start my day. I always like to have porridge, of course, but early in the morning I had a glass of filtered water with a freshly squeezed lemon in the water, nothing else, just water and lemon juice. Now I'm going to have some porridge because I think it's a good way to get cracking. And along with the porridge, have a bit of food in my stomach, and then I get my little special intro to the day. Now actually what I've got on this plate is tinctured cayenne pepper. And of course I have my trusty bottle of water with a filter in it, and what I do is I squirt the filtered water into a whiskey shot glass. Then I put 10 drops of tinctured cayenne into a whiskey glass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually I saw 11 and there's probably actually, you know, more than a drop. I think I'm a bit liberal with my dispensing of the cayenne pepper. However, it's meant to be a concentrated heart food and very good for opening up the cardiovascular system. So a few more spoons of porridge, but hot. Just actually come out of the oven. 2 capsules of flaxseed oil that I'm going to shortly have. Anyway, the glass of cayenne pepper, followed by apple. Here we go. Cheers. Very hot. Some fresh water. Still very hot. Piece of apple. Whoa, starting to cool the mouth down. Bit more water. One concentrated tablet of turmeric. 2 slugs of flaxseed oil, and in the special capsule, the light actually causes the flaxseed oil to go off, so it's a dark coloured capsule. Wonderful. The porridge. This is actually another bottle with a filter in it. Here's a really interesting one. But this little one is quite handy for just around the house and so forth. And of course I filter my water and filter it. I'm actually taking this from my tap at the moment because the filter is so good. This filter actually removes the fluoride. I'll show it to you again. It's actually quite an amazing little system. So there's a straw with a filter on the bottom of it. You fill. You can actually just about get this water from anywhere. I haven't tried seawater yet. However, and then you open the top, tilt it 45 degrees. Drink a lot of water around here. Water's really important. So while the world's going to the dogs, it always has, of course. That's the problem. If you read about history, we've always been in a mess. Another piece of apple. Mouth's starting to cool down. It's a fairly radical way to do things. Out the window there I've got the kawa tree, of which I've talked to you earlier on about its benefits. Kawa is very good for cleansing the system. And because of the shape of the leaf, my niece tells me it's very good for the heart. So I've done a little research, and that seems to be confirmed in the research that I've done. So there you are, cayenne pepper in tinctured form. So you can buy cayenne pepper anywhere. And the turmeric, flaxseed oil, plenty of filtered water, my porridge. Got some news from London. Last night. Yes. And of course, you know, we've been talking about the financial crisis as it's spread around the world for the last 10 years. I guess it really has its roots in the way the social, economic and political structures emerged after the First World War. I mean, we had actually a really serious recession it was a depression, 1880. And my great grandfather, who was born in 1862 and died in 1962, actually told me about the Great Depression of 1880 because he actually lived through it. And my grandfather also, of course, born in 1886, I think, and lived through the 1929 depression. My grandmother had lived through, saw the men going off to fight in the Boer War, the First World War and the Second World War. So I had all this institutional and historic experience passed on to me. And when I think about it, it's just amazing, because I can remember my great-grandfather and my great-great-grandfather talking together at the dinner table about how difficult times were in those two depressions. And so, you know, I think actually the problem is that today people seem to be unaware and naive, ignorant of the historical events that had taken place. And we're going through a very troubled time right now because basically we didn't resolve those really serious issues of equity, of fairness, of how our currency should work. And of course the daftest thing that ever took place was a government emerged separate from the finance and banking system. So, I mean, to have a government that was controlled by the privately owned banks, what a laugh. I mean, this is actually such a rort. And, you know, it just should not be allowed to continue. I mean, it's just a scandal and it's outrageous. And why do people accept it? Because we've all been socially conditioned. You know, the system is just incredible, really. I mean, people even go through universities and just accept all this nonsense. The fact that banks loan money that they don't have and charge interest on it. And that we are held prisoners by the financial system, by the banking system. Just ridiculous. Oh, if you could only read some of the speeches that Abraham Lincoln made about the banks and how working people were suffering this incredible abuse. And the fact that the state has emerged acting in the interests of the owners of capital, and capital which is actually artificially created. I mean, you know, we have been going through this situation of paying for the losses of the profit takers. And, you know, the socialising of those losses has been just meekly accepted by us, and we have never once really thought seriously about why we're in such a bad way. What we actually want, certainly losses from time to time have to be socialised, but we need to socialise for profits. We all need a share in the profits. You know, there's no reason why we can't all have a guaranteed living wage from 18 onwards. And Gareth Morgan's been talking about it. Gareth, he's got an interesting perspective, but however, I'm not sure that he's paid his fair share of tax either, actually. However, that's another issue. But we all have to pay. But we all, unfortunately, don't collect the benefits. And, you know, democracy, well, I tried to simplify it for people when I said, you know, we could break it down into some basic components. And I think I probably tried to make it too simple, but you have to have free speech. You have to have the looking after majorities. You have to protect your minorities. And you have to have a share in the benefits. So it's pretty basic and pretty simple. And I don't think any country really practices democracy. They kind of have window dressing and pretense to play around with the ideas. But in reality, and I think it was Chris Trotter had said, the title of one of his books, No Left Turn. Well, we certainly haven't made a left turn. And the way that the unions and that the labour movements have been portrayed by right-wing people is just a scandal. It's just outrageous. It's just absolutely outrageous. It's just all this nonsense that's being talked. And, you know, the right continually wheels out the bogeyman and vilifies the unions and so forth. I mean, I think the unions from time to time have actually done some pretty daft things. And I don't think they've been particularly very smart in terms of looking after their rank and file, and they've become bureaucratised, taken over by bureaucrats. But this whole thing that the business right-wing community does, this continuous propaganda and ramping it up about the awful things that unions have done, that the labour movement's done, that anybody who looks vaguely like they might be moving slightly to the left, and I actually think in this country we have always been very right-wing, We're a very rightist country, and I can remember a Scottish journalist coming to New Zealand in the 60s saying this on national television, and he was actually cut off because he actually was telling the truth about the matter. I mean, the left-wing politics, it doesn't exist here. We just are right and more right, and so far right, we're right of Genghis Khan. So, I mean, just amazing situation. All done with smoke and mirrors, and this battle of ascendancy where we've seen recently some of the mandarins in the banking and finance world start to come under a bit of scrutiny, but we only just scratched the surface. I mean, it's just absolute scandal that working people in a country that pretends to be democratic have to endure such absolute deprivation. I mean, we have one of our highest rates of child poverty in the world, and you know, a political system that allows us is failing. It's failing miserably. We've got a chance to actually change direction with the upcoming election, but it's no good just voting for one party or another. You have to actually ask these parties to deliver a true democracy. Whoever's going to be the next government has to actually make some commitments, and if they don't, there needs to be a kind of safety belt, an insurance for those who participate in the voting system. We need a referendum at midpoint, and in that referendum we need the right to dismiss the government of the day for not performing. There's something to think about. So, along with the breakfast, and I must finish my porridge, cooled down a bit now, not so difficult to eat. And that cayenne pepper percolating away through my system. Wonderful. Beautiful clean water. Problem with Wellington City Council water is it has fluoride in it. Really bad. And you can't get those councillors, and I'm one of them, to actually think about the consequences of what they're doing. I mean, this is actually quite a harmful substance, and it's in our drinking water. And I'll tell you what, we don't need it. It's in toothpaste. The whole idea of fluoridation is it washes around the teeth. It washes around in your mouth, and it affects the outside of the teeth. It's no good actually digesting it. It's no good actually having it in your water and drinking it. It's actually poisonous. That's not the way to actually look after your health. So here I am, a Wellington City Councillor, and I'm actually filtering my water because I don't like what the council's delivering. And I've raised this several times at council. We're not getting very far so far. So I've taken my only step open to me. You know, I'm taking control of the water that I'm drinking by filtering it. And this wonderful filter here guarantees 99.99% filtration, including fluoride. Yeah, so that's pretty good, and it tastes very nice indeed. So I'm going to get off and do a few other things now, and we'll speak to you next time.